Welcome to my channel. Today I am starting a new chapter which is called The Heart from Robbins. So stay with me till the end. The human heart is a remarkably efficient, durable and a reliable pump distributing more than 6,000 liters of the blood through the body each day. So the human heart delivers 6,000 liters of the blood each day and beating 30 to 40 million times a year, providing tissue with vital nutrients and facilitating waste excretion. Consequently, the cardiac dysfunction can have devastating physiologic consequences. Cardiovascular disease, including coronary artery disease, stroke, peripheral vascular disease, is the number one cause of death worldwide. About 80% of the burden occurring in the developing countries. Why? Why in the developing countries? Because of the adaptation of Western lifestyle. Okay. In the United States alone, cardiovascular disease accounts for roughly a third of all deaths, totaling about 800,000 individuals, or nearly 1.5 times the number of deaths caused by all forms of cancer combined. Disruption of any element of the heart, disturbance of any element of the heart, either myocardium, which is the muscle of the heart, the valves, the conduction system, and the coronary vasculature can adversely affect pumping efficiency. We will talk about myocardium, valves, conduction system, and coronary vasculature in the upcoming videos, okay, in a detail. Can adversely affect pumping efficiency, thus leading to morbidity and mortality. The major categories of cardiac disease described in this chapter include, we will talk about congenital heart anomalies, okay, ischemic heart disease. I just want to give you a brief review that in the congenital heart abnormalities, we will talk about cyanotic congenital heart disease and non-cyanotic congenital heart disease that include for example, tetralogy of the Fallot, atrial septal defect, ventricular septal defect, and in ischemic heart disease, we will talk about angina, non-ST elevated and ST elevated MI, okay, hypertensive heart disease, and the disease of the cardiac valves. The two main diseases of the cardiac valves, we have already know that stenotic cardiac valves or the regurgitant cardiac valves, okay, and the primary myocardial disorders. A few comments about pericardial diseases and cardiac neoplasms as well as cardiac transplantation are also presented. This chapter begins with a brief review of the normal heart, since most cardiac disease manifest as structural or functional changes in one or more cardiac components. So we will start with the normal anatomy, with the normal function of the heart, then we will go towards the pathology. General principles underlying cardiac hypertrophy and failure, common endpoints of the several of the different forms of heart disease are also discussed. Okay. So let's talk about cardiac structure and specializations. We know that a human heart is a pumping organ with two upper chambers and two lower chambers, the atria and the ventricles. The total human heart weight is about 0.5% to 0.4% to 0.5% of the body weight. The male heart is the weight of the male heart is slightly higher than the female heart. So the weight of the female heart is 250 to 320 gram, and while the weight of male's heart is 300 to 360 gram. Okay, the right ventricular wall thickness is usually 0.3 to 0.5 centimeter, while the left ventricular wall is 1.3 to 1.5 centimeter thick. Why the thickness of the left ventricular wall is greater than the thickness of the right ventricular wall? Because the left ventricle has to pump blood to the systemic circulation, okay? It has to pump blood to the whole body, while the right ventricle has to pump the blood to the pulmonary circulation, okay? So the pressure generated by the left ventricle is higher than the pressure generated by the right ventricle. So the thickness of the left ventricular myocardium is higher than the thickness of the right ventricle. Increases in heart rate or ventricular thickness above these normal limits indicates hypertrophy. We have already know that what is the difference between hypertrophy and hyperplasia. When there is an increase in the number of cells, it is called hyperplasia. When there is an increase in the size of the cell that results in the increase in the size of an organ is called hypertrophy. So here we are talking about hypertrophy, which is the increase in the size of the cell that results in this increase in the size of the organ. Okay, and an enlarged chamber implies dilation. There is a difference between dilation and hypertrophy. Hypertrophy means increase in the thickness, increase in the size, increase in the thickness of the myocardium is hypertrophy, while increase in the lumen, increase in the size of the lumen is called dilation. Okay, both can represent compensatory changes in response to heart disease and to volume or pressure overloads. These changes, the hypertrophy and dilation, occurs due to these are the compensatory mechanism. These occur due to the pressure and volume overloads. Okay, increased cardiac weight or size or both resulting from hypertrophy or dilation is called cardiomegaly. Cardiomegaly means the increase in the size or weight of the heart either due to hypertrophy or due to dilation or due to both of these changes. Okay. Accomplished via the coordinated contraction during systole and relaxation during diastole of the cardiac myocytes that comprise the myocardium. Left ventricular myocytes are arranged circumferentially in a spiral orientation that helps to generate a coordinated wave of contraction that spreads from the apex to the base of the heart. So here I want to show you a diagram of a heart. So here is a heart. This is the apex of the heart, okay? And this is the base of the heart, okay? So here they are saying that the wave of contraction, left ventricular myocytes are arranged circumferentially in a spiral orientation that helps to generate a coordinated wave of contraction that spreads from the apex to the base of heart. In contrast, the wave of contraction starts from the apex and it goes towards the base of the heart. In contrast, the right ventricular myocytes have a somewhat less structured organization. I have already told you that left ventricle has to pump blood to the systemic circulation and right ventricle has to pump to the pulmonary circulation. Due to this reason, the left ventricle is highly organized. The myocytes are organized in spiral orientation, while in the right ventricle, there is less structured organization. The contractile apparatus within myocytes is organized into a series of subunits called sarcomeres, composed of highly ordered networks of thick filaments, myosin in the center of the sarcomere interlaced with the thin filaments, largely actin, attached to the end of the sarcomere. The sarcomere is the contractile unit of the myocytes. Okay, they contain two types of filaments, the thick filaments and thin filaments, that come together. They come to each other and forms the cross bridges and result in the formation and results in the contraction. And regulatory proteins such as troponin and tropomyosin. The actin and myosin filaments partially overlap each other, giving rise to a striated appearance of cardiac myocytes. Overlapping areas of actin and myosin are dark, while the intervening areas are light. Contraction results as myosin filaments ratchet adjacent actin filaments towards the center, shortening individual sarcomeres. So contraction occurs when individual sarcomeres shorten. And how individual sarcomeres shorten? When myosin comes close to the actin filaments, and collectively leading to myocyte shortening. The amount of force generated is determined by distance each sarcomere contracts. Thus, moderate ventricular dilation during diastole creates a greater distance over which the sarcomere can subsequently shorten and augment the force of systolic contraction. This compensatory mechanism serves to accommodate differing volume and pressure demands. Greater the greater the dilation during diastole of the myocardium, then greater will be the contraction during systole. This is the rule. Unfortunately, there is an upper limit to the benefit of increased stretching during diastole. With excessive dilation, the overlap of actin and myosin filaments is reduced and the force of contraction decreases sharply, leading to heart failure. So I have told you that greater the dilation during diastole, then greater will be the contraction during systole. But when there is excessive dilation of the actin and myosin filaments, the overlap of the actin and myosin filaments will be reduced and the force of contraction will be decreases when there is excessive dilation, and that lead to heart failure. Then the heart will be unable to pump the blood when there is excessive dilation of the heart. Okay, then this leads to heart failure. Thirdly arranged, and thus generate weaker contractile forces than the ventricles. Some atrial cells have distinctive cytoplasmic electron-dense storage granules that contain atrial natriuretic peptide, that is a peptide hormone that promotes atrial vasodilation and stimulates renal salt and water elimination, natriuresis and diuresis. So we know that the myocytes, the thickness of the myocytes are greater in the ventricles as compared to atrium. And when we compare right ventricle from the left ventricle has a greater thickness than the right ventricle. I have told you. Then they are saying that the atrial myocytes, the muscle cells of the atrium, they contain a special peptide hormone. They secrete a special peptide hormone called the atrial natriuretic peptide. And that atrial natriuretic peptide causes atrial vasodilation and stimulates salt and water excretion, salt and water elimination from the body. So they help us in hypertension and congestive heart failure. These are beneficial. These atrial natriuretic peptides are beneficial in cases of hypertension and congestive heart failure because they promote renal salt and water elimination and they cause atrial vasodilation. Okay, the coordinated beating of cardiac myocytes depends on intercalated disc. What are intercalated discs? These are the specialized intercellular junctions. These are the junctions through which one cardiac myocyte is connected to another myocyte through these intercalated junctions that facilitate cell-to-cell mechanical and electrical ionic coupling. Within the intercalated disc and at the lateral borders of adjacent myocytes, gap junctions facilitate synchronous waves of myocyte contraction by permitting rapid movements of ions, sodium, potassium, calcium between the adjoining cells. One cardiac myocyte is connected to another myocyte through these intercalated discs, through these gap junctions, and through these gap junctions, the ions can easily move from one cell to another cell. Abnormalities in the spatial distribution of gap junctions in a variety of heart diseases can cause electromagnetic dysfunction, arrhythmias, or heart failure. If there is any abnormality in these gap junctions, it can lead to arrhythmias or heart failure.